Hello and welcome to the Ledger Lounge, an accounting and business advisory podcast brought to you by James Scott at Manchester. My name's Matthew Taylor.
And I'm Katie Allan.
I think our aim for this podcast is to demystify some of the terminology, some of the things that you're going to need to do as running a small business, whether you're a contractor, whether you're a larger business, whether you've got employees, whether you're a manufacturer. Hopefully we can start to touch on some of these topics and unpick the
grey areas. Welcome to the Ledger Lounge.
Here we go.
Yeah.
The Ledger Lounge. I'm Matthew Taylor. I'm accountant at James Scott.
I'm Katie. I'm a client accountant at James Scott, and I'm actually in my 10th year at James Scott.
Wow. Time flies when you're having fun, eh?
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was that long.
How times have changed, though, in 10 years.
Yes. I don't think your old boss ever forgave me for poaching you from him.
No,
But,
it's all right. He's retired now.
Yeah.
I'm sure he won't mind anymore.
No, he won't. No, I'm sure. So this is our first attempt at a podcast, so forgive us any and faux pas and gaps. We'll do our best, but I think that the idea is that we want to produce a podcast to get a little bit more content out beyond our website and beyond our blog pieces that we already do, and see whether we can get people to consume them in a different way. We've been having some chats and some ideas, and we're going to see where it goes.
It's always nicer to watch a video than read a blog or a story or 7-paragraph page on tax.
Well, I think I usually get to about three paragraphs with tax and then go. But I think there's just trying to find a different way of getting that information out to people. I suppose we should talk about James Scott, who we are, where we are. Some exciting news. Yeah,
we've got a new office. We're moving to Oldham.
Yeah, so we've been based in Middleton for 30 years now, I think. I think the firm's about 40 years old, and the time has come to move to Oldham. I live in Oldham. I'm from Middleton originally, so I spent most of my working life in Middleton. Last week, we completed on some offices on Summerfield, so we'll be up in sticks and in there.
They're massive as well, aren't they? A lot bigger than what we're used to now, which is good.
Yeah. Do you think they'll work better for us as an office?
Yeah, I think once we've reconfigured it into what we want it to look like, it'll be better. I think currently you think, who's going to sit over there and who's going to sit over here? Yeah.
It's all open plan as well. We're in little offices at the moment, which is a bit old-fashioned, and it's not great for internal communication.
Yeah. We've done a lot of moving around the current office that we're in, though, haven't we? I think I started on the bottom floor, middle floor.
Yeah.
Moved up again. Don't even use the middle floor anymore.
No, we don't. No, that's the other thing. I suppose since COVID, we've ended up a lot more work from home, a lot more flexibility, which I think has worked really well for us as a practice, as a business.
You weren't allowed to be near people, was you, during COVID? So we were all in separate rooms. We may as well have just worked from home.
That's true. Yeah. I think it's given that flexibility as well. When did we start that? Working from basically we do a work where you want, when you want, don't we?
We're in our third year now, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, no, we were working from home after COVID, though. People were still able to work from home if they needed to. It just weren't a James Scott thing back then.
Yeah, we sort of formalised it, didn't we? Made it what we do.
I only work from home, though, in the school holidays when I need to.
Yeah. Client-wise, we've got a mixed bag of clients across the board. People ask whether we niche. We've got quite a lot of e-commerce, which I know
That's grown massively, though, over the past couple of years, really, hasn't it? We've got tradesmen and construction companies, but you never really tend to get many more, do we? With the way everything's going, it's more e-commerce now, isn't it? And online sale, TikTok is a massive thing now.
I think, I suppose, again, that's coming out of COVID, that so much went online.
Quite interesting, actually, when you think about what people do as a business online anyway, and what sells.
Yeah, true. I know that I always find that what stuff people actually sell on the different platforms.
I'm always buying things off TikTok anyway. I'm always shopping on TikTok. It's great for kids' toys.
Yeah, we got a lead from a potential new client the other week who's going to speak to next week about 4 TikTok shops.
Wow.
So I'm selling various things.
That's hello.
Hi.
Sorry, Matt. Yeah,
I'm the producer. Don't forget about me. Speaking of setting things up in COVID, I started my first podcast during COVID.
Did you?
And now here we are.
5 years later.
Yeah. So my name's Matt Dean. I'm producing the podcast. I'm not going to keep talking, but I just thought I'd introduce myself.
Sorry, I was supposed to introduce him, but I
I
forgot.
think as well, five years ago, like we were in lockdown.
I know.
COVID.
Yeah.
Scared to go out.
Sort of.
Bring it back.
It gets mentioned all the time, but it's almost like ancient history,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's
So it feels like it was a lot longer than 5 years ago. It feels like it was over 10 years ago that we was not able to. You could only go for a walk with your dog.
Yeah. But I think from a business point of view, it's changed
Yeah.
massively as well. With if you think about what has happened since lockdown, and we got Brexit.
A lot more businesses have changed the way that they work because of that. I think there's pros and cons to COVID and lockdown.
Yeah. I
Probably
think
more
people
pros actually than cons now.
People had different views on their own businesses and shifted their focus.
Can I ask you if personally you had? I feel like overwhelmingly that COVID was a positive thing for me.
Yeah.
Insofar as my life changed after it, and things that happened as a result of it.
Yeah.
My life is better after COVID, but for a lot of people it was worse after COVID. What was it like for you individually and for the business?
You know what? It actually, we were digital anyway, weren't we? We didn't really take a lot of paperwork in, but it actually encouraged, well, I suppose clients didn't really have much of a choice then to use Next to get their invoices in, and it kind of flipped it for us. They had to do it, and then they continued to do it, whereas prior to that, they'd be bringing, like I said before, a box of books in, where we'd be taking photographs, wouldn't we, of each invoice. Whereas now it's all there ready for us to do the job rather than get the paperwork on the system.
Yeah, it probably speeded up
It's trained clients a lot, I mean, in terms of they know what they need to do to help us do the job. Good.
Yeah, I think that it really speeded up that client education process, because we're heading in April 2026 to this new tax regime of making tax digital, which anybody who's got a turnover of more than 50,000 is going to have to move towards digital record keeping and filing returns. And probably talk about that at some point in the future.
Our clients are already doing it. It just means that we can actually focus on the job and really look at the figures rather than rush a job and try and get it out the door because they've brought the stuff in on the 7th of the month.
Yeah.
The VAT deadline.
I suppose from a business point of view from us as well, I mean, ultimately, yes, we're an accountancy practice, but we are a business.
Yeah.
We are selling our services.
Yeah.
And COVID made us think about the business. We had to work a way of getting that information from clients when we couldn't meet clients, but then making that as efficient as possible. Yeah. And use of technology has always been forefront in what we do. You mentioned Dex there, which is, I think, is an incredible tool.
It's amazing
for getting data.
It's really easy to use as well for not just for us, but I don't think we've had any clients say, I don't know how to use this.
No. Simple as just taking a photograph or forwarding an email. And it used to be called machine learning when it started, but I think it's called AI these days. And it just recognises invoices. And
I remember when I first downloaded it on my phone, I didn't turn off the save into camera roll. And I'd gone to a client's and I was taking all these photographs of the invoices. And I got home that night and I was like, why have I got like 400 photos in my camera? I'm having to go through and delete them all.
Yeah.
Memory full.
Education process. I think on a personal note, though, I think that because technology has taken a bigger gone to the forefront, I suppose, in accountancy. that end gave me a bit more enjoyment and a bit more focus.
Yeah.
To move from the old way of working, which was very much
a lot of it was more
paper-based.
client led as well, wasn't it? We was waiting for. They knew they had a deadline of whatever the date would be. We'd prompt them. We need your stuff by whenever, and they'd deliver it when they had time.
Yeah.
Which was usually everyone had the same thought process and dropped them off the last week of the month.
That's true. Yeah, and now we can work with them too.
You can schedule it a bit better, can't you, the work, or prompt them. We've seen that there's nothing on decks.
I think Helen, our practice manager, hates me though. I go to some of these like Zero Con, which is a zero product based convention. It happens every couple of years, or digital accountancy show, and you meet all these software vendors, and then you go, "Oh, that's the next best thing," and that's the next best thing.
You give in your email, and then you're off.
And then, we're going to do this now. I've got another project.
Yeah.
I think she was quite happy when we talked about this podcast project. It didn't involve her.
Yeah, might do though.
It might,
Helen, if you're watching.
Yeah.
Can I just say, for full disclosure, that not only are you my client in this environment, I am your client in terms of accounting. And I think what you were saying there is about, I've run a business before, and accounts is always the biggest headache, especially if, like me, like you said, e-commerce, whatever your business is. I'm a creative person. I like creating things. I don't like numbers particularly. I don't know anything about accounts particularly either. I mean, I've learned a bit, but it's the one thing that's going to put stress on you. The money side of your business is the one thing. Have you got enough? Who do I need to pay? Who's paying me? All these things are if you don't deal with them, then it just gets more and more and more and more stressful. So the thought you're saying about the digitizing and the technology, it is making things easier, but you still have to do what you need to do when you need to do it. And I got to the point, obviously, I've set up as a limited company earlier on, sort of middle of last year. I have obligations now, and so I need a partner, an accounting partner like you, to keep me in check and make sure that I'm doing what I need to do when I'm doing it. And it does take the pressure off having somebody. Because if you're independent or a small business, you don't have an accounts department to look after all that. So you need an account partner, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I was looking for. And obviously we got talking through podcasting. They are talking about podcasting, but then through that relationship of talking, and it was like, okay, well, I can see these guys being my accountancy partner going forward and helping me get everything together and build the business. And it's really important. It is a mutually important partnership in it. You need my business, and I need you to help me run my business. Yeah. So, I mean, from I'm not going to be getting involved in all these podcasts, but what I will be doing is I'll be sitting here learning.
You get a lot of free advice.
Yeah, which is great. That's what I need, and that's what we, as somebody who produces podcasts, I want to produce podcasts that are going to be helpful and serve a purpose in the wider community when they go out there, that they are delivering information to people who need it. Yes. And this for businesses it's so important, but it's so important that you've got people who know what they're doing to help you do what you need to do. And that's why, I'm hoping that this podcast will become successful and get out there to the people who need it, people like me.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that was our intention as well. So conversely, we are probably the least creative people. I know accountants are supposed to be creative, but that's a whole different...
I do arts and crafts on a weekend with my child.
Yes, you do.
It's about as creative as I get.
I mean, we struggle coming up with a name for the podcast. That's how creative we are.
That coming up with names for things is harder than it sounds. And to be fair, I think you've done a good job.
I think our aim for this podcast is to demystify some of the terminology, some of the things that you're going to need to do as running a small business, whether you're a contractor, whether you're a larger business, whether you've got employees, whether you're a manufacturer. Hopefully we can start to touch on some of these topics and unpick the
grey areas. I don't think the grey areas. I think some people genuinely just don't really want to know. They know they've got a tax return due, or they know they've got something due, but they don't want to learn about it. They just want other people to do it.
Well, that's another.
But it's good for them to learn about, to actually understand the figures. But
I think so. I think that the least satisfying part of our role is going, there's your VAT bill, there's your tax bill, and the client not caring or not being interested in the bit that gets you there, or how you can get that
I think
tax bill lower, or your profits higher.
And they probably think, oh God, another bill. Another one.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a negative relationship with your accountant. It should be a positive relationship.
Yeah. The most interesting part is bringing a client on board who starts off small, or it's a new business, and watching it develop into something that you think, wow, they're actually doing really well.
Yeah.
Not that we had doubt. You wouldn't ever think, oh, they're not going to do well, these, but it is really nice to watch somebody go from maybe, I don't know, not even turning over a lot of money to doing really well.
Yeah.
It's good.
I also think that dealing with people you get on with, I think we all warm to those people that you get on with. And so if you can get a good interaction, a good relationship with that client, it makes everything so much easier.
Yeah, and I think you don't want to just come across as, oh, it's my accountant ringing me, I'll ring them later.
Yeah.
I'll ring them in the car on the way home. You actually want them to be like, oh, she might have something interesting. She's got something to tell me, or she usually, please, can you do this for
me? Yeah. I always think that we don't email people, or we don't ring people for the sake of it. It's usually because we want something and we need something, or we want to be able to progress and get to the end result of what we're doing with the
because
client.
we're doing bookkeeping or accounts on a regular basis now, in terms of we're looking at them weekly, monthly, quarterly. You are speaking to the client a lot more often than what we used to. Probably 10 years ago when I was there, it was your year end's just passed, your accounts are due in 9 months, bring your stuff in, and they go, oh, they're not due for 9 months. But then you didn't have time to discuss them, really. Well, you did, but you'd be doing all the work, and then you'd forget what you were at, not what you were doing, but you'd do the work and say, right, this is done. This is your accounts. You've got tax to pay. You've not got tax to pay. And you'd never discuss the figures, really, because you didn't have time.
That's right.
Because they'd bring them in, right? Yeah, last minute.
Yeah.
So it's good that we're doing things monthly in real time, rather than 9 months after the year's been.
Yeah.
And they've made a loss, and you tell them that they've made a loss or a profit.
I really do think that element of work should be history. That's probably the least satisfying element of the work, is if you do a client once a year and you're seeing once a year.
Because we're doing it in real time, you can say, right, this is the way it's going, i.e., oh, you're approaching the VAT threshold, we're going to have to register for your VAT. But years ago it used to be, oh, they hit the VAT threshold last year.
Yeah.
Or 9 months ago, and you've then got to go back and redo everything and register them for VAT. And usually they didn't know.
And then the other end of the spectrum is the guys that have started the business and then are exiting at the other end. So they're retiring. We had one business who completed the sale of his business earlier on this week, and he's been a client since, I think he set his business up in 1986. So even before I was working here, he set his business up and he's grown it, and it's done very well over that long term, and he's now sold it and exited.
It's a nice ending for him, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, off to his retirement. So that's always a very satisfying one as well. Got one guy who is sort of doing the same. He's heading for retirement, although he's doing it in a different way. He's just closing the business down and not quite mothballing it, but just having it ticking along until his son, who's in the same game, wants to take it on.
Right.
Whether he will take it on or not, I don't know. But again, he turned up at our offices with his mum as an 18-year-old.
God.
And she said he needs an accountant, and can you help him? And so we did. And again, that must be 63 now. So,
so
all those years
his whole career or business develop from being a young 18-year-old lad to retiring.
Yeah. And for the last 15 years, we've worked and done quarterly management accounts with him. And so we've helped him develop his business, and he's done nicely out of it as well. I think he's looking to buy his place in Spain now and go off into the sunset a little bit, which is great as well. So it's also helping people achieve their life goals as well as their business goals.
The thing you were saying about relationships before, and on that point, it's so important, like to have consistency. And obviously as a business, client retention is really important. Like getting new business is the hardest thing. Yes. So maintaining the relationships that you've got. Obviously I want this podcast to go on for a long time because that's good for me in business. Yep. You want me to be a client for a long time. It's good for business. So that relationship is really important. Now, obviously, this full disclosure, we're both Oldham Athletic supporters, aren't we, Matthew? So that helped.
That's why we're both grey.
That helped break the ice. Yeah, exactly. That would break the ice. And you've got the look that you give a fellow Oldham fan of, oh, not you as well, poor thing. That's one of those things. But these little things, and we met at business breakfast, business breakfast as well, which the informality of that, getting to know somebody and then the relationship developing. And I think when it comes to podcasts, and that what I hope will be a benefit for you guys is that people start to get to know you at a distance if they listen and through social media. And that relationship starts with this. And hopefully people will start to get to know you, and then when they need somebody, they'll give you a call because they've got to know your personality a bit. Because it's not just about what you offer as a business, which is obviously really important, but there is that personal relationship and
I think you've got to be likable as well, haven't you? Everyone wants to wants to like a person. You don't want to be like, not really that keen on you, but I need you to do my account, so there you go. You want to be approachable as well. Yeah,
but that likability, not everybody can like everybody else, can they? No. Whilst we can do and we can be an accountant and develop that business relationship with one person, it might be completely different with somebody else because you don't have that spark or that little bit of connection and then that can be a bit harder. So I suppose navigating those waters are the trickier bits.
I mean, we was talking yesterday, weren't we, about where I used to work. Matthew was the accountant, and we didn't have obviously cloud software or anything. It was Sage, and he'd come in, I don't know, maybe once every fortnight, was it, to do the cash flow or whatever it was that needed doing that time. And my manager at the time used to be so frightened. She'd be like, Matthew's coming in on Friday. And I remember thinking, why are accountants that scary? That's what I thought. I was only young. I think, what was I, 17 or 18? And I just remember thinking, wow, maybe they are scary then. And then when the first time I met you and you walked in, I thought, oh my God.
I suppose for disclosure, you should say I'm 6'6".
Yeah.
So
and incredibly scary.
And incredibly scary, yes.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's an interesting point, because the thing I was thinking about before was when I had a business before and things weren't going particularly well outside of the business and in my life. And sometimes you get overwhelmed in life, and sometimes you neglect things, and things like finance and stuff like that might be one of these things. Accounts might be one of those things. It was with me. I neglected stuff. I stuck my head in the sand for a while, which is a bad thing to do. So, you need to have people on side to help keep you in that. And the more on top of things you are, the better that is. And it's not that they're scared of the accountant, it's that they're scared of what they know they're neglecting, or what they're not doing, or what they're not on top of. And it's that fear, because that comes from personal experience, unfortunately, which puts you in good stead for the future. But at the time, it's not great,
I suppose prevention is always better than cure. So maybe developing those client relations, which is something we focused on since, I don't know, the last 3 or 4 years, especially when we brought a practice manager in with a customer service background rather than an accountancy background. So that was our thought, was we've got to break down those barriers. And hopefully then, if you are having a bad time in your personal life, you can have that conversation with us anyway. Yeah. And we can help take that financial pressure off and that compliance element away from it. And maybe you can get through the personal issues a little bit quicker because you've not got this and it's always nice for them as well that they can, if whatever's going on in their life, they've got time to focus on it, knowing that we're in the background
doing what we need to do for them, and they've not got to stress about it.
Yeah.
There is a lot of pressure when you're running a business and when you're on your own.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to learn very quickly to do everything.
All functions,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, you do. And you can, I do remember once we had a guy, and I think his business was, he's still a client, built festival stages. So very seasonal. So he'd go around the country, putting a stage up at a village fair or something where they'd have a little local battle of the bands or something like that. So he lived in his van most of the time. And every year we struggled getting any data off him, any invoices off him. And we showed him that Dext.
Yeah.
It was called Receipt Bank at the time, Dext. And his face just lifted. And he's like, his eyes lit up. And it was just like somebody had lifted a huge cloud off his shoulders, because we'd given him this tool, which meant he could clean his dashboard of his van up as much as anything. And but all that clutter on his dashboard was cluttering his mind probably. Mm. So it's just those little things that can make the difference as well.
Yeah, but they're not little things. You know, so that's like a sole trader, self-employed, but then equally daunting is when you grow your business from that point and you need to start bringing people in and you need to start paying them and you need to start doing all the other things that you've never, ever done before. Like, where on earth do you start with that?
Yeah.
You know, that's my aspiration, you know, and I've no idea where to start with all that kind of stuff.
And like compliance as well, like you just said then, if you bring in somebody in and you've got to set up a payroll and be HMRC compliant and sort taxes out for them, for your employee, not just them for yourself.
Yeah. I suppose we can relate it to that client we saw last week. New client. It was really just a chat with him to see whether he wanted us to be his accountant. And he says, I've just got this issue with my payroll. I've not been able to pay the staff yesterday because we've set a new payroll up and something's not quite right with it. So I said, well, let me have a look at it. And I think maybe just that knowledge that you've got of what could possibly be the issues. I spotted it within about 15 minutes and emailed him back and said, sorted. There you go. Off you go and pay him. And it's just those little bits that we've got.
But it would have been such a relief for him as well, like knowing that he was then able to pay his staff, and ultimately his staff would have been thinking, why am I not getting paid?
Yeah. I mean, that can cause all sorts of problems with your staff.
I know it does for you when you forget to press the button when you're paying us.
I've not done that for a while. I've not done it twice.
It's usually Agatha that sends you she'll send me a WhatsApp. Have you been paid yet?
Yes.
She sends Matthew a gif of a child with a bat in its hand or something.
But these are all the things, minimising stress. Yeah. Because we all just want to, we do what we do for a reason. Like, if you become self-employed, you do it for a reason. You start a business, you want to be the boss. You have your own time, for example. You want playing to your own tune and all that kind of stuff. But you still have, there are still other people you have to answer to, like the tax man and on all these things, and potentially employees and all that kind of stuff. So you need support, you need guidance, you need mentorship, you need people who, around you, a good support network, don't you? And I think that's what I've learned this time coming into this now, is I'm much more aware of taking opportunities and like the growth hub, we're promoting the mentorship. So I've gone for a mentor, and I've come in with you guys in a different perspective of how I want the relationship to be, more of a partnership, and these are skills that you learn as you're going through business, and hopefully people listening to, if people come into this podcast that are just at that first journey, little things like this will be helpful to them. Yeah,
and I think that the business community as well has become less formal over the years. You were talking there about a mentor. That there was a time when a mentor probably wouldn't, or an accountant wouldn't particularly like working with a mentor, and they'd be suspicious of each other a little bit. And these days, I think there's a lot more collaboration. Yeah,
you like to work together with people. Like, it's not just with clients, is it? If we can help anyone, you try to.
Yeah. I mean, we used to, accountants especially.
Yeah.
You'd never talk to another accountant at a networking event.
They were poaching clients.
Well, that's the competition.
Yeah.
But we are our own competition, aren't we? Doing the best we can do for our clients is actually the motivator for us, and that should be that's our competitive edge should go to, is doing that.
Yeah.
And the rest will follow from there. You'll gain new business. You'll do a good job for your clients, which ultimately, and we'll all succeed, which is ultimately the aim. So hopefully with these podcasts over the next few weeks, months, if we get that far, we'll be able to get some information out and share some tips and business ideas and just help navigate that maze a little bit.
It is a maze. It very much is a maze. Yeah, it is. I think you've done a great job for your first podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
Cheers.
So,
thank you.
Not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
You want to wrap it up?
You can.
No, I'll let you.
Thanks for listening.